Today we will be discussing about tribal aged's contribution to family and community. Now, before we understand about family and community and what is their contribution, the tribal aged, we need to understand that in India there are rural aged, urban aged and tribal aged. Now, the urban aged have a retirement age. We have taken 60 years for census purpose of classifying a person as old. But the tribal aged, they don't have a retirement. Death is their retirement. And they contribute immensely to the community and to the household because they are the persons who are the repository of knowledge and they know everything. And most important is the social gerontology which we are talking about is basically a study of, it has been derived from two Greek words. Geron means old man and logy means scientific study. And the father of gerontology was Vladimir Krenchovsky, a medical scientist, and he told that a person doesn't grow old because of old age but because of some pathological and psychological interferences. Now, when we talk about tribal aged, we need to understand that there are many things which they are doing, starting from income generation to intergenerational communication to caring of young ones to agricultural operation and basically environment protection. Now, when we talk about environment protection and agricultural operation, do you think that the tribal aged have immense contribution? Starting from winnowing, starting from weeding, starting from everything they are doing. And as far as environment protection is concerned, they are the persons who counsel their grandchildren not to play with nature. Because if we play with nature, nature is going to play with us. Now, tribal aged and their contribution to their family and community needs to be understood when we go to the tribal areas and find out how they are contributing immensely to the community. Now, they have very unique things which we need to highlight. Supposing if aged, they have oral tradition. That is very, very important. And what is oral tradition? You have to depend upon the elderly. Now, we in urban areas, we have written tradition. So we, the younger generation, we feel we do not respect the elderly. But in tribal areas, starting from hunting, starting from house building, starting from anything for that matter, they have to depend on the elderly. And the elderlies are the repositories of knowledge and they only contribute immensely for the growth and development of the younger generation. Now, there are so many things which will need to be understood. 90% of older persons are from the unorganized sector with no social security at the age of 60. This is something which we need to understand, and the growing number of aged population in this country and tribal population, 8.6% of the population in India are tribal population and 8.0 population are elderly. Now, out of that 7.7% are males and 8.4% are females. This is according to 2011 census. Now, this is a growing number and older people represent an opportunity rather than a crisis, a solution rather than a problem, an asset rather than a burden, and a group that needs to be highlighted because of their contribution. We always talk about the socio-psychological problems, the economic problems, the physical problems of the older persons, but we need to highlight their contribution aspect also because there are a growing number of elderly people in this country now and the tribal aged are the best examples for everybody how to live a healthy and prosperous life when you grow old. You don't grow old in fact. In fact, I always believe that we are not mentally active. We need to be mentally active and that is what the tribal aged teaches. And most important, years may wrinkle the skin and gray the hair, but to give up interest in life will wrinkle the soul. So let us try to understand how the tribal aged at the age of 80 also. I have seen several tribal villages and I know they are immensely physically fit and mentally also fit, and they are doing everything starting from agricultural operation, caring of young ones, taking care of grandchildren and environment protection. So we need to understand how we need to protect the elderly and particularly the tribal elderly. Now the most important things which they do is they contribute by bringing up grandchildren, doing voluntary service, caring for the sick, often counsel and resolve conflict by virtue of their position. In many cases they are also repositories of knowledge, experience, culture and religious heritage. They are highly valued for their roles as advisors, counselors, arbitrators and repositories of knowledge about traditions, customs and oral history. Many things which we need to understand is that weeding, replanting the agricultural operation, weeding, replanting the gaps, that is done in July and October, which is known as Shravan and Dasara. Transplanting, plowing the paddy and bundling them, carrying bundle seedling and transplanting Ashad and Shravan, that is June to August. Kartik and Pous, October to January, winnowing, reaping the crop, carrying it to the threshing ground, and most important, collecting forest products like duri, mohul, char, neem, sargi, bahala, amra, bamboo shoot, anything, and leaves to make leaf cups and leaf plates. This is something very unique about the tribals which we need to understand. And indigenous knowledge. The indigenous knowledge which they have needs to be understood. And indigenous knowledge has been converted into indigenous knowledge system. It is the difference between knowing and understanding. Their indigenous knowledge is so very unique that one needs to interact with them to find out what is that knowledge. And most important, what I want to tell you is that good physical and mental health is essential for the integration of the elderly into development. Continuing participation in economic, cultural and community life is closely related to the maintenance of health and self-esteem of the older people. And one does not grow old by living a number of years, but by deserting his ideas and usefulness, by losing the will and the faith to accomplish. One must remember that we are as young as our faith and hope, and as old as our fears and despairs. The concept of productive aging is seen as tribal aged contributing economically, socially and culturally to themselves and their communities. Now, as far as the census is concerned and as far as the statistics goes, there are many type of definition about old age. Like the Oxford Dictionary, the term aging means to grow old or show signs of advancing age. The term elderly, however, is defined as somewhat old, possibly middle age. But what is most important is we need to understand the things which the tribal agents do and how they are in fact very important for the contribution of the society. And the first step is to make the aged aware that they can and need to work for themselves and that they can be also active contributors to development. It is to the advantage of the elderly themselves as well as their community that these years are spent usefully. Now we talk about senior citizens. We call them senior citizens, the elderly. Just remember that in our country we have politicians who are running the country at the age of 80. And at the age of 60, when a person retires, we are making them infit, incapable, and we are making them old. In fact, we are responsible for that because we are always letting them know that you have become old, now don't do this, don't do that. But we need to highlight the contribution aspects of the elderly. Without that, the future of this nation is in I may say in problem, because it's a growing number of people. The aged population is growing at a faster rate than the population of this country, and so many group of people, those who can contribute effectively to the development of the society, and many of the aged are in the informal sector, and many of the aged, those who are very active, they can contribute immensely for the growth and development of the society. And I always believe that we need not tell the elderly that you are old. They are very young. In fact, they are more younger than us, and they can do wonderful things which they can contribute for the society. And one should learn from the tribal aged, who are in fact the examples of how to live a healthy and active life at old age. We seem to hear a lot these days of cases where there is a lack of enterprise, a spirit of wanting something out of nothing on the part of individuals and groups. Now this could become a serious problem, but it proclaims a spirit which could result in national degeneration and social stagnation. Now why I am saying this? I am saying this because we need to talk about culture and environment. Now culture is a very important concept in sociology and anthropology. What is culture? Culture is a design for living held by members of a particular society, and it includes knowledge, belief, art, moral, law, customs, and such other habits and capabilities acquired by man as a member of the society. Now this important concept of culture is to be understood. Culture has wide implications and meaning. It is the sum total of society's thinking and living. Culture not only deals with the social relationship of tribal people with their fellow members, but also their relationship with their surrounding, both living and non-living elements. By telling the younger generation folklore and folk tales related to environment, they warn them not to play with nature. They play also a significant role in afforestation activities in their localities. Now, when I was talking about indigenous knowledge, what I meant was the wealth that supports the sustainability of tribal culture, found in institutions, environmental knowledge and resources, especially with cultural meaning, which includes access to common resources, localized prestige, secure position within society, culturally appropriate housing, food security, social support, and identity. Indigenous people invest vast amount of time and resources in preparation of their culture, institutions, and social support systems. Their cultures provide members with a well-traveled map of where they came from and what is likely to happen today, tomorrow, next week, and next season. This cultural map is localized, reflecting generations of experience, and is not readily transferable to another landscape. Indigenous sustainability is based on protecting their environmental and resource endowments. Indigenous peoples protect the resources and draw on the fruits of the land, which lie drawing on the interest from an account which touching its principle. Knowledge in ethnomedicine and their role as family doctors, the aged are usually consulted by the younger generation in the matter of health care. Old age, as I told you, is not synonymous with ill health and disability. Many of the chronic disability conditions of aged can be certainly be prevented or postponed. Diseases are eminently modified because lifestyles and not genetic factors lead to diseases. This is adequately proved by the experiences in different countries. Tribal lifestyles help the elderly to lead an active life. Now, this is not a problem. The problem of the elderly and the situation which our country is going to face as far as the elderly population is concerned is not confined to our country alone. The world over, this is a thing which needs to be recognized, and we need to learn from the tribal aged that we can be active participants in the community, in the household economy, in income generation, in intergenerational communication, in caring of young ones, in bringing up grandchildren, in transmitting the knowledge which we have, and do so many things to bring about social reformation in the society. We do not need riches, social position, or lavish education. All we need is to learn to smile where previously we grumbled, We have to look at our disadvantages in true perspective and try to turn them into advantages. We have to greet each day as one of boundless opportunities. We need to appreciate the simple joys and common pleasures of life. Then only true wisdom will come to us. Now, this is very important, we are in an information age. We use many gadgets. Okay? Information and knowledge and wisdom. Three things, Information is nothing. If you want proper knowledge, you have to read books. And if you want to have wisdom, you have to live with the nature. Okay? And you don't reach the stage of wisdom, then only information will make you a dull person. You are not going to find anything from the gadgets which you are using. I am not against the modern gadgets which students are using. I always appreciated it. There are many plus points about that also, but books are to be read, and some books are to be tasted, some books to be swallowed, and very few books to be chewed and digested. If you don't read books, you won't be able to know that. But so very interesting, see, we, after knowing so many things, we are not respecting our elderly. We are not giving them respect. In fact, the respect which they deserve, we are not giving that. But go to a tribal area, the younger generation, they respect their elderly like anything. And I'm saying this because I have gone there, I have interacted with them, and they know how to respect the elderly, and the elderly also know how to talk with the younger generation. This is something very, very unique, Now, you can't ask certain questions to the elderly which you shouldn't ask. Like, supposing once, my daughter, is a very educated girl, and she has a laptop with her and a mobile also. So, she went to my father and mother and told them that, see, I have a laptop and I have Google inside it, and I can answer all your questions. So my mother and father, they are not very educated, So they said, don't lie to us, because we know that Google can't answer all the questions. Then she persisted. She said, you ask me some questions and I will answer it. So my mother asked her, ask your Google, do your grandpa loves me as he used to love me earlier? So my daughter got annoyed. She said, what is this? Don't ask such questions. Such questions won't be answered by the Google. Then she asked my father. My father told her, okay, you just ask your Google why your father is not giving me time. Now, in both the questions, Google didn't have an answer. And this is the problem with our younger generation. We are trying to play with electronic gadgets which have nothing to do. Try to interact with the elderly and try to talk to them, try to learn from them, and that will give you immense pleasure. And I tell you, the elderly have everything with them. They are the repository of knowledge, they have wisdom with them, and they know things which we don't know. So let them interact with us and let them teach us certain things which we need to learn. And this is how we are going to show respect to them. And most important, needs of the aged are unique, Their needs of elderly are unique and distinctive as they are vulnerable, Health, economic and psychological needs are most important. Among the medical problems, cataract and degenerative joint diseases top the list, followed by neurological, cardiovascular and urinary diseases. Malignant diseases account for a sizable extent of morbidity. Other problems of concern are malnutrition, frequent falls, and cognitive dysfunction. To compound this, the aged often have more than one illness. So we need to look at that also. I am highlighting about the contribution aspect, I know, but there are many socio-psychological problems, there are many economic problems, and there are many physical problems, and it's a challenge for the elderly. Never ever speak to an elderly like just what is very interesting about it is that we never consider a person old till he retires, and all of a sudden the day he retires, the family members, they try to make him old. Don't do this, don't do that. Why are you playing with this? Why are you doing this? Why are you moving out? you sit down at home, you watch spiritual things only, don't do this, don't do that. Why should we do that? The elderly are also young, active, and fit enough to do wonderful things and contribute immensely for the community and the household. Thank you.